back to my channel again. I am doing something different yet again. With every worst or least favorite list comes a best or most favorite list. And so this guy, Pat Guy, joined me on a previous video for our top 5 least favorite comic book movie villains that we have seen so far to date in movies. And those ranged from different comic book movies from different periods of time, not necessarily linked to the MCU, the DCU, just any comic book movie that has come out. And we decided that we were going to do a top 5 favorite comic book movies villains list. So joining me again is Pat Guy. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Alex. How are you?
Good. Your camera's a little, I already told you this, your camera's a little snowy. Dude, it literally looks like it's raining inside.
Maybe it is. I don't know. It's been one of those days.
Yeah. You ready to get down to these lists? I'm curious to know what you put on your list, because I think you have an idea as to who I put on my list.
I feel like we probably have the same number one, I imagine.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So you want to get started with your honorable mentions, and this can be as many as you want. It doesn't have to be a certain amount.
So one of my honorable mentions, I have Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi version. I mean, I really like Alfred Molina's interpretation. I just think they kind of do a little bit of a cop-out where they're like, oh, the arms control him, and like...
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, his plan is a little like, oh, the power of the sun in the palm of my hands. Like,
well, plus too, like, if the arms didn't control him, I don't think you would have had that, like, really, like, horror-like sequence in the hospital. I remember when I first saw that in theaters, I was scared shitless.
yeah, me too, man. Well, the arms in that were scary. They were like snakes.
Well, dude, it's not just that. It's when the doctor grabs the chainsaw and he tries to chainsaw the arm off, and then like you just see like the arm, like hit the doctor's arm fall with the chainsaw, and then the chainsaw like dies out. It's like, holy shit, did Doc Ock just rip his arm off?
I always thought they were creepy too, like the parts where they'd like be like right next to his face, like talking to him. It was like, like they'd like rip his face off, you know. But like I always liked his interpretation. I thought the way that the first time we see Doc Ock in live action, I thought was great. I mean,
you got a train to
catch. Peter Parker, brilliant but lazy.
You have a train to catch.
But yeah, I always liked him. He's just not... I think he's the best villain in the Raimi trilogy for me. Yeah. Like, I really like Green Goblin too, but yeah, I think he's the superior villain. Another one of my honorable mentions is I have Justin Hammer from Iron Man 2.
Yeah, you love him because he's Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell's the best, man. And like, yeah, he's not the most intimidating villain or anything, but his scenes are gold. Anything he says is pretty much gold.
He saves Iron Man too.
Yeah, he does. He makes it so entertaining. And I should have mentioned last time, he wasn't on my list. He should have been. Ivan Vanko, Whiplash, terrible villain. I can't stand him.
My bird.
I want my bird. You lose, Stark. You lose. Like, that's all he does the whole movie. You lose.
I don't know why they thought getting Mickey Rourke as a villain was a good idea.
You didn't really need Whiplash. You could have probably just had Hammer and his drones, and we would have been fine.
Yeah.
Like, even at the end, Whiplash comes in like in his big suit, and it feels like an afterthought.
Yeah, because he's not in the movie all that much.
Yeah, he just shows up. He's like, "Oh, here I am now," and they're like, "Oh, well, now you're dead." I'm like, "Okay." And then I just have 2 more on my honorable mentions. I have Hela from Thor Ragnarok.
Nice.
Who I really like. I love Cate Blanchett. I like the way they made her Thor's sister. I know that's not in the comics, but I thought it added a little extra something to her character. Mm-hmm. And I just think her fighting a whole army of Asgardians single-handedly and murdering every single one of them was amazing.
I've loved her appearance where she just like waves her hand, like rubs her hand through her head, and it's like all of a sudden she gets like this new like mane. It's like, is she a Power Rangers villain?
Yeah, it's like she was really cool. I loved the interpretation of her. And then the last one I have on my honorable mentions just didn't quite make the top for me. The Penguin from Batman Returns. Danny DeVito.
Round up all the kids. Get the birthrights.
I just love Danny DeVito's version. It is messed up. It's weird. It's dark. But I love that movie, and I will defend that movie.
Nose off, doesn't he?
Yeah, he bites someone's nose off. He wants to murder all the children in the sewer. He's disgusting, and he's like, I believe the word you're looking for is ah. I played this stinking city like a harp from hell. He was great.
I'll be honest with you, Penguin's on my honorable mentions too.
Thank God, man. You know, I love Jack Nicholson's Joker, and he should be an honorable mention too.
He's on mine too.
Yeah, I love him, but I just think Danny DeVito brought something really like, and also I'll just give a shout out to Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman.
Oh yeah,
she's amazing in that role. Like, I think those early Batman movies, because they focus so much on the villains, they have some pretty good villains.
Yeah. The problem with Returns is that it's a Tim Burton movie. But
yeah, it's just about the villains.
But still, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I love Danny DeVito's Penguin. I always have. He's weird. He's grotesque. He's creepy. Yeah. He got raised by penguins, and then his funeral, the penguins walk over and drag him into the water.
Aren't there like penguin bombs too?
Yeah, well, there's penguins with rockets strapped to their backs.
Yes,
and then Penguin gives like a General Patton speech to his army of penguins. I know some of you may not come home. So good, man.
Classic 90s, right?
Yeah, so good.
Was that it for your honorable mentions?
Yeah, that's it for my honorable mentions. Yeah.
Okay, I got quite a bit for honorable mentions. Yeah. There's so many where I was like, those are too good. I can't leave them off.
Well, there's so many good comic book villains and not as many terrible ones.
Yeah, exactly. So we already mentioned Penguin. He made the list. Jack Nicholson's Joker. Have you ever heard of the healing power of laughter? Now get out of here!
Haven't you ever heard of the healing power of laughter? Now get out of here!
Classic. I mean, Jack Nicholson was born to play the Joker.
I know, dude. Dude, like, it kind of pissed me off when they were making The Dark Knight, where he was like, I wasn't asked to come back as, like, the Joker, and I'm pissed. But then, like, I'm glad that, like, it subsided once, like, he saw Heath Ledger.
Well, I mean, he was so iconic in the role. I remember when they cast Heath Ledger, I was like, you can't top Jack Nicholson. Like, get out of here. Get out of here.
Good.
Now get out of here.
I also have, this is going to be a hot take. I got Bane from Dark Knight Rises. I know that that's a point of contention for a lot of people. I think he's good up until a point, but I still don't think that kills his entire motivation and villainous scheme in that movie. But I just love him going around being like,
dude, and that whole summer, everyone was just talking about it.
Well,
that whole summer.
I think it was College Humor. Do you remember when they did that video when the lights at the Super Bowl went out and it was like, hello, my name is Bane, and I was the cause of the Super Bowl blackout.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, but no, Bane. I mean, he's great. The performance is great. I do, like you said. I think once Talia comes in, it kind of deflates Bane.
Yeah.
And he immediately gets defeated.
Yeah, because then it's like it turns from Bane being the main villain into Talia al Ghul being the main villain.
Yeah, he's like a puppet.
But like, I don't think it kills Bane as a character for me.
He's still pretty
his
good.
Motivation or his scheme, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's definitely memorable.
Yeah, like I love him blowing up. What do you call it? Bruce Wayne's armory.
Yep.
And he gets like all his like equipment. I'm like, damn, how is Batman gonna do this now? Just stuff like that, and then he forces Bruce Wayne to go broke. Just awesome. I also have Ra's al Ghul from Batman Begins.
Interesting choice. That's definitely a controversial one.
Yeah, I really like that version of Ra's al Ghul. I like all the villains in that trilogy.
I love them all except for Talia.
Well, yeah.
She's the one where I'm like, she didn't need to be here, and then her death scene is atrocious.
And it was too obvious too that they were like, oh, she's playing Miranda Tate, but it's like, no, you're playing Talia.
Yeah.
It was those things.
Yeah, Liam Neeson was great.
Yeah,
it's the whole whitewashing aspect of it that's kind of awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I just love how his presence is felt throughout the whole movie, though, and I think that that's why he strikes a chord with me, because I think some of the best villains are the ones that aren't in it that much, but you hear about them so much that their presence is felt, and you know just how much of like a sinister person that they actually are. And I felt like that with him. And I mean, I love the fact too that the movie switched from, oh hey, Ken Watanabe is Ra's al Ghul, but hey, that was the fake Ra's al Ghul, and now Ra's al Ghul is actually going to contaminate Gotham City's water supply, and he's gonna break into Bruce Wayne's mansion during his birthday.
But is Ra's al Ghul immortal? Is he supernatural? Yeah, that was a great reveal, though. It was. Really cool.
Yeah. It was so unexpected.
I just love too when he's just like he's burning Bruce's place to the ground. He's like giving him a lecture. He's like, if someone stands in the way of true justice, you simply walk up behind them and stab them in the heart. And then like a ninja fucking comes out of nowhere.
I also have Sebastian Shaw from First Class.
Interesting, Kevin Bacon.
Yep, sticking quarters in people's foreheads. Amazing. My next three, I still have a few more to go.
Oh, no worries, man.
Yeah. My next three are from the MCU. Ego the Living Planet, very underrated villain.
Agreed.
Killmonger from Black Panther. Really like his motivation, how he thinks he has the actual birthright to the throne. And then
he like his method was maybe a bit extreme, where he's like, we're gonna go attack everyone, but like T'Challa ended up kind of taking his advice and kind of not isolating Wakanda as much.
Yeah.
So he was kind of right, kind of not.
Yeah. And then my next one, I think you know how much I love this guy, Baron Zemo from Civil War. Just for how fucked up his plan is, man. Like he's like murdering people in hotel rooms, like setting up bombs. Like he literally causes the Avengers to break apart. Like it's right him, more or less.
They might have had a better chance of stopping Thanos if Zemo hadn't, torn them apart in the previous movies.
Exactly.
Zemo for me, like he's not. I think he's going to be more memorable to people after his appearance in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked that he was more grounded, and in Civil War he didn't have his famous purple mask, which he's gonna get now. But I think that too, like he's my number 5 on my list. I'll just say now, Zemo I think is a really effective villain. He's a very understated villain compared to a lot of them.
Okay.
Like I agree, man. He's great. I think that he's maybe not as memorable yet because I feel like I know for a fact when I was watching Falcon and Winter Soldier with like my dad, for instance, I had to explain at the end of that episode who Zemo was. Gotcha. Like I was like, do you remember that guy from Civil War? He showed Tony the tape, and he's like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's him. But like, Zemo's great, and I mean, I remember before Civil War came out, I was watching some show, and some person was like, no mask, no Zemo, so he's gonna be terrible. And I'm like, but he's still great. He's very different than his comic version. Like, very different. Like he's not super Hydra like focused.
And that's the thing. Like I love when movies can take the villains from the comic books, create their own version while still retaining like the core of the characters, which I think is what they did with Zemo.
Because comic Zemo, depending on which one you're talking about, there's Heinrich Zemo. I believe it's Heinrich in that. I think it's Heinrich Zemo is the Zemo in like World War II, who's like a Nazi, and then his son Helmut Zemo, who's the one from the MCU is using, it was like his son in the modern day, and they both wore the purple mask. But I like that they kept the fact that his family is still the most important thing to him.
Yeah.
And that's why he's going after them. Like his family is still his driving force. It's just not an evil Nazi father. It's much more like relatable than that.
Right. And I got one more honorable mention before I get into my top 5. A classic villain from our childhood. Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Oh man. Yeah. So many good memories, and he's got such good dialogue too. I surrender.
Yeah, dude, or just the part where he's like leaning, like talking to Spider-Man, like hitting him with a mask on and everything.
I also love the scene where Spider-Man goes into the burning building and he hears like the woman screaming, and then he just turns around. He's like, "You are predictable."
You're pathetically predictable. Like a moth to the flame. What about my generous proposal? Are you in or are you out?
It's you who's out, Gobby. Out of your mind.
Misery, misery, misery.
Yeah, we're gonna have a hell of a time.
Classic,
Like,
man.
I get it. The outfit is probably outdated now. He looks like a Power Rangers villain.
Dude, he was outdated then. It never looked great.
But like, dude, who cares?
Yeah,
it was a cheesy movie anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I'm saying that in a good way.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that in a bad way. So it was like you had to go there with Green Goblin. And like, who better to play Green Goblin than Willem Dafoe?
He was great. He really was.
Yeah.
He knew how to camp it up just enough. I love the scene where the New Yorkers were all throwing shit at him. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And he should have been like, I'm Norman Osborn. I'm a New Yorker too.
I also love the scene where he's talking to himself in the mirror. It's like he's like holding up like the paper. It's like, you killed those people. We killed them.
First, we attack his heart. Or, dude, just the fact that he's so evil, he blew up Aunt May's wall in the middle of her prayers, made her finish her prayers as he, just to traumatize her. From evil! Dude, that Aunt May was amazing.
I love that Aunt May.
Oh, shout out to that Aunt May. She was badass.
She's still alive. I hope she is.
I hope she is, man. She was cool.
All right. So that's it for my honorable mentions. So let's get into our actual top 5. What is your number 5?
My number 5 was Zemo.
Okay. So we already talked about Zemo a little bit. My number 5 is Magneto.
How dare you put him so low?
Hey, at least he's in the top 5.
Yeah.
This isn't just relegated to one version, the McKellen or the Fassbender version. This is like both versions as a whole. I just love how Magneto is just such a tortured soul from what he went through in World War II. Like, you see it in X-Men, Apocalypse too, where he goes back to Auschwitz, and then he uses like his powers to like have the metal rise up from the ground, and then you see him in the first X-Men movie like bending the metal on the gate to try and get his mother through. He's just such a tortured, broken person where it's like, maybe he is actually right, you know? Like, the humans are gonna hate the mutants.
I'll just say now, Magneto's my number 2 on my list.
Okay.
Mainly, Magneto is my favorite Marvel character in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the most interesting. I think he's the most, like, I don't know, he's got the most depth to him.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think he's the only, like, supervillain in comics where, like, I feel like if I lived in that world, there is a possibility that I would follow him if I was a mutant, you know?
Yeah,
I can see his point completely.
That's the thing. I love how you can agree with his point of view, but even when he's siding with the X-Men, you know he has something else in the back of his mind where he's like, I'm going to do this instead. And then that gets the X-Men pissed at him when he goes and does his own thing, and then, like, Days of Future Past, he becomes like a huge villain towards the end of that movie. Yeah. And it's just like, it's like, holy shit, like, you were doing one thing a minute ago, now you're doing this, and like he almost basically kills Wolverine almost.
Oh yeah. Well, I love that in that movie, in that example, like, his motives, it's still trying to do what the heroes are trying to do. He's trying to stop mutant extinction in the future that they were warned about, except they're like, oh, we got to stop Raven. He's like, no, we just got to kill all the humans who are going to cause this shit. We got to remove the threat entirely.
Right.
Like, I'm going to, like, blockade the White House and, like, kill the president, like kill Nixon. I'm like, okay. Like,
and then the scene in Apocalypse that's so underrated is the scene in the forest. Just such a powerful scene.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I think both versions of Magneto that we've seen in the Fox movies, both amazing.
Sadly, he had no memorable scenes in Dark Phoenix.
I mean, he's still, I think, the best parts of Dark Phoenix. I think when he's on the train.
Him and McAvoy.
When he's on the train, he's kicking some of those alien guys' asses with, like, metal all around, like, flinging shit. I'm like, okay, Magneto.
Yeah. But he had
otherwise, yeah.
I remember when I first saw that, I was like, Magneto had no purpose in this movie, though.
He really didn't. He didn't need to be there. We just love to see him. Like, that's the thing. Like, Fassbender, and what I love about his version of Magneto is you feel for him more, and he's more, like, McKellen was old enough from the events that happened to him where he seemed like he knew what he wanted to do, and he would just try and do it, and he'd feel justified. Fassbender is like, you can still see all that anger and like explode out of him, and he's like reasonable sometimes, but like the best, one of my favorite scenes in any comic book movie is when he goes to Argentina at the bar with the Nazis in first class. It's so good. It's like a perfect scene.
I love that scene.
Yeah, Magneto, I think he's just a great character, and I think both versions that we've seen in the movies have been great because he's played by such great actors.
Mm-hmm.
And people complain about, like, oh, Magneto's very flip-floppy, like, he'll be a good guy, and then he's a bad guy, and then he's a good guy, and it's like, but I don't think it's about good and bad. I think he's just doing what's best for him. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a gray character, but I think he's going to be tough when they do reboot the X-Men in the MCU. I think Magneto in particular is going to be hard to recapture that, especially because he's been a bad guy in so many movies. You got to find a fresh take on Magneto.
I feel like they would eventually. I feel like they would do what they're gonna do with Mordo. Like they would make him like the good guy and then slowly make him the villain.
Yeah. The Dark Dimension.
What's your
shout out to Mordo. Shout out to Mordo. I like that version of Mordo.
I like Sueto.
I'll give him an honorable mention. Yeah, he's a great actor, and I think he's gonna be a good bad guy in the future. For now, he's just kind of the angsty sidekick turned bad guy.
He is good as Caecilius.
He'll be better than Caecilius.
I know he will. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh damn! I didn't expect.
I thought Michael Keaton was fantastic in the role.
I love Keaton.
Yeah. Keaton's great, man. But like the role itself, I thought the version they did of Vulture was super unexpected. Like having him be just kind of like a blue collar, hardworking guy who kind of got screwed over.
Yeah.
And like I thought that was just a cool version of interpreting him and making him like a scavenger of all these like different technologies, and like then the twist, man. The twist hit me like a fucking punch in the theater when Peter goes in the house and you meet her dad and it's like him, and I'm like, it may give him an honorable mention. Yeah, he's a great actor, and I think he's gonna be a good bad guy in the future. For now, he's just kind of the angsty sidekick turned bad guy.
He's not. He is good as Caecilius.
He'll be better than Caecilius.
I know he will. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh damn! I didn't expect.
I thought Michael Keaton was fantastic in the role.
I love Keaton. Yeah.
Keaton's great, man. But like the role itself, I thought the version they did of Vulture was super unexpected. Like having him be just kind of like a blue collar, hardworking guy who kind of got screwed over.
Yeah.
And like I thought that was just a cool version of interpreting him and making him like a scavenger of all these like different technologies, and like then the twist, man. The twist hit me like a fucking punch in the theater when Peter goes in the house and you meet her dad. I'll give him an honorable mention. Yeah, he's a great actor, and I think he's going to be a good bad guy in the future. For now, he's just kind of the angsty sidekick turned bad guy.
He's not. He is good as Caecilius.
He'll be better than Caecilius.
I know he will. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh damn! I didn't expect.
I thought Michael Keaton was fantastic in the role.
I love Keaton. Yeah.
Keaton's great, man. But like the role itself, I thought the version they did of Vulture was super unexpected. Like having him be just kind of like a blue collar, hardworking guy who kind of got screwed over.
Yeah.
And like I thought that was just a cool version of interpreting him and making him like a scavenger of all these like different technologies and like then the twist, man. The twist hit me like a fucking punch in the theater when Peter goes to the house and you meet her dad. Damage, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's why I like those two villains a lot too, even though they didn't make my list. I think when Tony Stark causes a lot of damage to people, I think that's when the villains are the best. All right, so my number 4 is actually Loki from the Avengers. I love
my number 3.
I love that he just leads a gigantic army, the Chitauri, into New York City. How he's basically like Thanos' like fourth hand man.
Yeah. He's just a bitch, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. Like, I just love how he's trying to like accomplish everything Thanos wants him to accomplish, and he doesn't. Like, but he's so charismatic at what he does, and he's so manipulative, and like the fact that he's like the trickster, like a trickster god, like, and he can like trick people, just makes him so much more better.
Yeah,
like,
he was great.
I guess it's kind of hard because it's like, am I talking about him as a whole? Because when you get to Thor Ragnarok, he's actually like a good guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I struggled with on putting him on the list. Is he's a villain, I would say, in what Thor 1, Avengers, and sort of a side. Not even really though in Dark World.
No, he's more of like a reluctant hero in that.
Yeah. But I mean, Avengers. I think Thor 1, I loved his character, and he like was villainous and stuff, but he wasn't as hands-on as he was in Avengers.
Yeah.
Where Avengers, I think, was the chance where when he really started to shine. Yeah. I think when he got to kind of bounce off all those different characters.
I have an army.
Like, he was just great, and like Tom Hiddleston played him in that movie, especially.
There's nobody else that could play Loki other than Tom Hiddleston.
He played him in that one with an especially like more like not psychotic, but like there was like a kind of an unpredictable element with him.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't he have that whole scene in Germany where he like puts on like his like that I don't know what you want to call that thing.
The helmet?
Yeah. And then he's like making people like bow to him, and they're like, "Why should we bow to you?" I love that scene.
Yeah, there's the guy from like the Holocaust survivor, the German guy, like yeah, they're always men like you. Yeah, Loki was my number 3. I think he's just a great character in general, but as a villain, I think he was really good too.
Mm-hmm. Did we do your number 4?
My 4 was Vulture.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay. Yep. Loki was what, your 3?
My 3, yeah.
Okay, my 3 is Lex Luthor, the Gene Hackman version.
Well, thank God, Alex. It scared me. I was like, did your opinion change in a week? Is Jesse Eisenberg on this list?
No, I'm talking, and this is the Gene Hackman from the original Superman. Like, this is the original Superman.
Australia.
Yeah.
I guess that's Superman 2.
Yeah. The problem I have with Lex Luthor in the old Superman series, especially Superman Returns, since they were yes, especially since they were trying to attribute like the old Richard Donner films, is that it seems like every live action version of Lex Luthor that we got, aside from Michael Rosenbaum, just Lex wants land.
Yeah, it was always a real estate scheme of some kind.
I'm fine with it, and this is why he made the list, because I'm talking about Superman 1 just as its own thing. I'm not really talking about Superman 2 as a whole. Definitely not talking about Superman 4. Because he had no business being in that movie.
How dare you? He created Nuclear Man, who's my number 1.
But like, I just love Miss Tessmacher. Like, Miss Tessmacher!
Otisburg. It's a small place, Mr. Luthor. It's a small place.
Like, I'm fine with him wanting land and like creating like what does he want to do? Create like a drought or something?
Well, he wants to. What was it? He wanted to like destroy California or something. I forget.
Yeah.
It's been forever. But he wanted to shoot the missile at them.
I know, like the fault line like cracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that whole scheme. It's just it gets too annoying when he wants to do the same thing in Superman 2 and then Superman Returns. So, yeah. But he is my number 3. I love Gene Hackman. Will always be the OG Lex Luthor to me, even though I do think Rosenbaum is better.
I am the villain of the story.
But Gene Hackman will still always hold a place in my heart. I love watching his Lex Luthor every time I watch the original Superman movie. Just him trying to like manipulate Superman in that movie too, and he's just
mind over muscle.
he just pulls out all the stops in that movie, so he's my number 3.
Good. So my number 2, we actually already went over. Magneto was my number 2.
Okay. Yeah, my number 2. No, I'm just kidding. Thanos.
I realized as I was looking at my list, I'm like, I didn't even put Thanos, but that's okay. You have it on yours.
Yeah, Thanos, this giant purple grape, best MCU villain to date. Just the fact that he hates the fact that like the world is like overpopulated. He wants to he wants to solve the population problem. How like conniving and evil he is, like especially in Infinity War. And then when you look at him, where he ends up in Infinity War, and then like where he is in Endgame, like the fact that they kill him at the beginning of Endgame, I was like, holy shit, so what are they going to do the whole rest of the movie? But I think they played it smart, where it was like they went back to like a more, like, he was already evil, but they went back to like the more evil like Thanos that we love. And he was just like, I get it, you already did all the work for me, present Thanos, but still I want those stones. And dude, just mind-blowing stuff with Thanos. Like having him as the overarching villain, hiding in the shadows like Palpatine for a good chunk of the MCU, and then him actually carrying out his plan because none of his henchmen or minions can actually do it. He's like, well, fuck this shit, I'll do it myself. Dude, Thanos he's intimidating, he's menacing, he's a force to be reckoned with. It's like, how the hell are you gonna beat him when Thor stabs him with a Stormbreaker and he doesn't die and he's just ripping moons out of the sky? Like, damn, like.
Yeah, Thanos was great, man. I just remember leaving the theater at the end of Avengers, and like I knew who Thanos was because I've been like a comic reader my whole life.
Yeah.
But there were tons of people who were like, "Who was that purple guy at the end of Avengers? Like, what does that mean? Like, who's that?" And now he's like an icon. Like Thanos is like, I mean, Josh Brolin. Despite it, I mean, I hate even saying it, but like a lot of times people don't consider motion capture acting to be like real acting, but no, his performance is amazing.
It's amazing. I also sorry, go ahead, finish up.
So just that Thanos, I think that they were smart where they made his overall plan was something you could understand and a surprising amount of people agreed with. You know, like in real life I talk to people and they'd be like, I mean, he was kind of doing the right thing. I'm like, he just committed like mass murder of billions of
Genocide.
people in the universe. Like, and they're like, yeah, but like, he was trying to fix the problem. I'm like, well, if he has the power of a god, snap your finger, make more resources, make more space. You don't have to kill everyone. Like, but I mean, it was great to make him so megalomaniacal that he didn't even seem that evil because he was so certain of what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was so dedicated to the whole balance and all of that. And it was only an Endgame, I think, where you really peel back, like, he doesn't really care about that. Like, when he's like, oh, I'm going to kill everyone then, and then we'll restart. Like, that's when you really saw the dark side of it. And I mean, even just what he did to Nebula. Like, he's a bad person. But
Yeah, dude, I love Thanos. I love when he just takes Spider-Man, slaps him down, it's like, insect.
All that for a little drop of blood.
See, he's got so many memorable lines.
Shout out to Ebony Maw, too, man. Ebony Maw, man. He was the best. You're children of Thanos.
I'm sorry, Earth is closed. Oh, man, now I want to watch Infinity War.
And I will peel it off your corpse. Infinity War's great, man.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 was Magneto.
Oh, Magneto? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll get into our number 1s. You want to know what my number 1 is?
Sure.
I will hurt people!
Mark Pillow as Nuclear Man?
Nuclear Man, stop the people!
The people!
If you will not tell me, I will hurt people. I will hurt people.
Stop! Don't do it! The people!
I will hurt people.
Don't do it!
I will hurt people.
Stop!
If you do not tell me, I will hurt people.
Oscar, Mark Pillow.
Mark Pillow, one of the greatest actors of our time. Nuclear Man with the most understandable motivations. When he finds a newspaper article and it's like, doo-doo-doo-doo. He's like, ooh, I like this girl. I'm going to go abduct her and bring her into outer space.
Nuclear Man with the greatest weakness ever.
His theme song. Da, da, da.
But if we're talking actual number 1.
That wasn't your actual number 1?
No, my actual number 1.
Not mine either.
Yeah. My actual number 1, I feel like our number 1s are going to be the same.
I mean, yeah. Like,
you know where this is going. I'm going to make this pencil disappear.
You're talking about Jared Leto's Joker, correct?
Oh, hell yeah, man. We live in a society.
He doesn't even say that in the movie.
I know. No, I mean, Heath Ledger's Joker is just, it's iconic.
I feel like it goes without saying. You
can't top it. Like, I get Joaquin did his Joker movie. He won Best Actor, but to me still, I mean, Heath Ledger is just, it's too iconic. Like, are you the Batman? No? Then why are you dressed up like him? Starting to people will buy. I'm a man of my word. I've been trying to perfect that laugh for years now.
Image is disturbing.
Tell them your name.
Brian Douglas.
Are you the real Batman?
No.
No?
No.
No. Then why do you dress up like him?
He's a symbol. We don't have to be afraid of scum like you.
Yeah, you do, Brian. You really do. Huh? Yeah. Oh, shush. So you think Batman's made Gotham a better place? Look at me.
Look at me!
You see, this is how crazy Batman's made Gotham. If you want order in Gotham, Batman must take off his mask and turn himself in. Oh, and every day he doesn't, people will die. Starting tonight. I'm a man of my word.
I mean, the thing is, like, this is what I always talk about when you want to do a different version of a character.
Yeah.
like you can make it very different. Like Heath Ledger's Joker is not very similar to the comic Joker in a lot of ways.
Yeah, right.
But the core of the character is still there.
Well, here's the thing I love. He's not tied necessarily to a backstory. Because the thing is that when he is giving his backstory, like the first time you're just kind of like, okay, that was kind of like an unneeded like exposition dump where he's like, my father was a drinker and a fiend, and then he's like, you want to know how I got these scars? And he comes up with an entirely different bullshit story where it's like, holy shit, like he's just lying about this. Like
he's either lying or he has a very complicated past. But no, man, yeah, like it reminds me in the comics, I think it was The Killing Joke, but at one point Joker says, if I want a backstory, I'd prefer it's multiple choice or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I mean, Heath Ledger's Joker is the only Joker in the movies that I would really consider scary.
Yeah.
I think you didn't know anything about him. They never tell you anything about him. You don't know where he comes from. You don't know what he does when he's not the Joker. If he is ever not the Joker, does he go to an office job? Is he ex-military? Like, you have no idea what he is. Like, he's just this force of nature that shows up. You never see him, like, you used to see in, like, Tim Burton's Batman, for instance. Like, Jack Nicholson hanging out with Bob. And I loved Bob. Okay, shout out to Bob the Goon. That guy's the man. Bob Gunn. But like you'd see Joker setting up things. Like you'd see him
burning piles of cash.
Heath Ledger's Joker would just come out of nowhere. You'd have no idea where he came from, or like, and his whole philosophy of, you know, everyone's crazy. You just got to push them enough and they'll show you that. Like,
which is what he does with Harvey Dent.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Like, I just thought it was the whole thing, the whole idea of the way they used the Joker in that movie, where he's like an idea against Batman's idea. He's a response to Batman. Like, yeah, amazing stuff. And Heath Ledger just kills it. Every scene is gold. Like, there's no bad moment with him.
No. And dude, remember when we doubted that casting?
I thought he was going to suck. When they first cast him, I was like, the pretty boy from The Patriot. Get the hell out of here. I'm like, yeah, Jack Nicholson will forever be the best Joker. And then we saw the trailer, and I was like, oh. Like, that's, whoa.
Dude, and then, like, going back to him not being tied to, like, a, like, backstory or anything, like, the makeup is all fake, like, You literally see it in that scene. Is it where Gordon gets shot? I think where he's he's literally disguised as a police officer, and then you see like his actual face. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with his face? And I love how they never explain it. It's like you want to. I think that scene too, where he's at the party and he's like slapping people. He's like, you know where Harvey Dent is? I think that's all improvised too. So I
remember hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah, like. Ledger just had his way with Joker, and like rest in peace, man. I wish he was still alive, but.
Yeah, that's so sad, because that was such a groundbreaking performance. That would have changed his whole career. And like, he's remembered now as a great actor. Like, yeah, he was good in other roles, but that is the role of his life.
That's the defining role of his career.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a real shame what happened, but. Yeah, his Joker, though, was immortalized. And I hated the people who were like, oh, he only won the Oscar because he was dead and it was a pity vote. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Yeah. Give me a performance in 2008 that was better than that.
Yeah, that might have played like a teeny bit part of it. But like, just that whole performance was just mind-blowing. Like, I don't think I have seen a better performance in a modern comic book movie than that.
No.
Yeah.
No. And there's even the opening, the cold open with the bank robbery.
Dude, I just love that. It's like, yeah, he told me to take you out. Like, he's literally telling, like, his henchmen to take the other henchmen out so that he's the last man standing.
He's the last man standing, yeah.
Dude, he literally kills William Fichtner.
You know who he's stealing from? You and your friends are dead. Yeah, no, Heath Ledger, man. Like, and that, too, like, I mean, for the past, like, 10 years, Comic-Cons, anytime I went, there was just tons of Heath Ledger Jokers everywhere. Yeah. And, yeah, now there's probably Joaquin Phoenix Jokers and Jared Leto Jokers, but there's probably still more Heath Ledger Jokers.
I'll take Joaquin. I'll take Joaquin's Joker, but Jared Leto's Joker can die. Forever immortalized, the Joker. Poor Mark Pillow wasn't our number one.
Dude, I regret everything, man. He should have been our 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like, what a performance.
Our honorable mentions, too. That's going to do it for the list for our top 5 favorite comic book movie villains. Had a lot of fun discussing these. So many great comic book movie villains. It's really hard to choose which ones are going to be in your top 5. If this was a top 10 list, it would have been easier. But we just put it down to 5. Just because we would probably be here all night if we went 10. So I think the honorable mentions kind of give you an idea as to where some other villains stand. But really fun talking about these. Had a blast. Pat, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @thisPatGuy. Talking a lot of Falcon Winter Soldier stuff. Mostly just talk about movies all the time there. You can find me on Cinemania World, Hero Hour show sometimes.
You can find me at my official website, alexmanamovies.mystrikinglate.com. All of my social media links are there, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm going to try and get Letterboxd on there. My OnlyFans is on there. Just kidding.
Oh my God, you slipped that in so casually. It took me a second. I'm like, wait, what?
That is not on there, just to clear the air. You guys are the best. Thank you.
But it exists. It's just not listed.
You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden. That's Pat Guy. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.